Are you feeling overwhelmed with a busy schedule and experiencing major procrastination? Well, in this interview with Amy Landino, author of Good Morning, Good Life, she shares how she's been able to build a successful YouTube channel regardless of her busy schedule and shares her top tips on how you can be more productive so you can crush on this platform coming up.
This video is brought to you by vidIQ, the #1 Chrome extension for YouTubers looking for on-point data analysis, research resources, and enhanced video creator tools. Start getting more views in less time today by signing up for free at vidiq.com/influence. That's vidiq.com/influence.
What's up, Amy? Thank you so much for being on Video Influencers. So excited to talk everything YouTube, productivity, obviously your book, Good Morning, Good Life. How you doing today?
I'm awesome, Benji. That was such a great intro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just pumped to be able to sit down today and talk to you because I just love your work. So let's do this.
I appreciate it. And of course, you know, you and I have similar beginnings as vloggers. I know that you do so much more than that. You're an entrepreneur, obviously a content creator, but that's how we kind of met with your last book, Vlog Like a Boss. But everybody, we're going to be talking about productivity, right? How to make the most of your time. Now, Amy, my first question before we get into it is, would you and I agree that everybody has a busy schedule and that can't ever be a good excuse for, why you're not crushing it in life?
I think that was a really good way to put that question because yes, it's true. No matter what, we all have a reason to be busy. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a cop out to say busy. It's an excuse. So yes, I think everyone's busy. It's just a matter of what are you doing that's important to you? What are you doing that you have to do? There's going to be some have tos, but what about the things that you care about and how can you start to shift it a little bit and actually enjoy your life?
Absolutely. And if you guys are not familiar with Amy, I want to introduce you formally to her. So Amy Landino, your productivity life coach and so much more, best-selling author of Vlog Like a Boss and newly published Good Morning, Good Love, Good Life. Been on Gary Vaynerchuk and so many other channels, including this one. Just crushing it on YouTube. 360,000 followers, subscribers on her YouTube channel, 20 million plus views, and continuing to grow and crush it. And seriously, one of the entrepreneurs that I really respect most on this platform because you're such a natural, not only on camera but on stage at so many events. So thank you so much. And if you guys haven't, definitely, subscribe to her channel. Amy, are you ready to talk about some productivity?
I mean, how could I not be after that? Yes, thank you. And yes.
So the first thing I want to ask you is, I know you didn't always start out as an author, as a content creator, and of course your first book was Vlog Like a Boss. Tell us a little bit about how you even got started and how you got to where you're at today, because I'm sure a lot of people who might not know of you want to know, like, what was the origin story for your kind of come up?
Yeah, so it was very, very, very long time ago. The first time I ever picked up a camera was in 2007. And that was when I was in a wedding. I was asked to be a bridesmaid. And it was just a special thing that I came up with. I just thought I wanted to make her feel good. And what could I do to make that happen? And somehow just figured out, oh, there's a video option on my camera. And I can try that and make something. And ultimately just sort of did this montage of congratulations and best wishes. And it was really cool because at the time, no joke, I didn't know YouTube existed. And I had to burn that video on a DVD. I took it to the rehearsal dinner and played it for everybody there. And it just felt so cool that I had finally sort of realized a creative outlet. But not only that, like had a captive audience. Even though I made something for a very particular person, everybody in the room appreciated it. And there was something really infectious about that. And I just wanted to know more. I realized that there were people uploading trips to Target and making them look cool. And I was like, wow, like this is an incredible thing. Like being able to string together a story of anything you want and then invite people to learn about it. You end up accidentally teaching yourself a lot of really good business and marketing skills, which ultimately sort of snowballed into my business as a consultant, and that ultimately fueled my business as a creator. So yeah, it's a much longer story than that, but it really all happened on accident.
Absolutely. And since then, you've been very, very busy. And so I think that's something everybody can relate to because, we've got our job, we've got our career, we've got school. Some of us are balancing family life or, a private life and our work life. And so it's an easy excuse to be making. And of course, by the way, I'm also somebody that's done that. I was like, yeah, I'm just too busy. But what I love about what you talk about in your book, Good Morning, Good Life, as well as just generally on your YouTube channels, there's a lot of simple solutions to how to get over that. So I guess before we get into our top productivity tips, what are some of the things that has helped you just generally? And maybe you can even speak to Good Morning, Good Life, which, by the way, you guys, we'll also put that link down in the description box. But what are your first thoughts when it comes to looking at your life and making the most of your day?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is giving yourself permission to be in charge of it. That can be a really big deal for a lot of people. Just giving yourself the opportunity to say, no, I really do make these decisions. You could decide not to go to your job. Like if you really wanted to, you could just not go. I mean, you probably don't want to
True.
skip your job because it pays you and there's a paycheck. But if you actually think about it, you are in control in a lot of ways. So maybe that's going just fine, but you wish that you're outside of work or building a side hustle of some kind, but don't even know how to start. You have to give yourself the permission that you do have control over the rest of that time in the day. And you do, because when you decide to wake up at the last second to hit the snooze, to rush out the door to get to that job you may or may not like, you've not chosen what you could have done instead. That's something that you care about. That's something on your terms. So I think the biggest thing is when you want to be more productive, you have to give yourself permission to find something better and also know why you want to.
Yeah. I love that you literally mentioned you have to give yourself permission because a lot of people, they say like, oh, even though I'm busy, this is what I have to do. When really, ultimately, when you decide to do something, that's what you want to do. You can't say you wanted to do something else because if you decide to do it, and so part of that is just owning the fact that it's your decision to make, and no one can be accountable or take ownership except for yourself for what you ultimately act on, right? Like what you actually do. And we live in a day and age where all of us literally could wake up and, like you said, if you really want to pursue this career on social media or start a business on YouTube, you just have to make the choice. Even if that means maybe, prioritizing your time, not watching Netflix, creating content on the side, or quitting your job, maybe changing your career, because everybody has this chance, has this opportunity. And this is one of the great things, originally you were going to be here in Seattle and be in studio, but we're just the same able to create this content because of internet connection. So there's really no excuse, everybody. Anything else you want to add or follow up on that note before we get into the productivity tips?
Absolutely. I think in the same way, it sounds good, say like give yourself permission, just keep in mind that the reason that's so important, surrounded yourself by people who are going to also give you permission, that would be super cool, but they can't do the work for you. And most of us are not usually surrounded by somebody that's like, yeah, sure, you went to college, start a YouTube channel. That sounds like a great idea. 10 years ago, that was not socially acceptable. Okay. So remember that you may not have the permission around you. And that's why the permission from yourself is such a big milestone, but really important.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's talk about how to be more productive. And I know we've got 5 tips from you on how to be more productive. But before we get into that, I was just curious. Since we're talking about your book, Good Morning, Good Life, which, by the way, if you guys haven't, go check it out. I'm sure it's on Audible, it's on Amazon, but go to that website right there, goodmorninggoodlife.com, and get your copy. But on that note, what is your morning routine like? Because of course, when it comes to productivity, it's all about crushing the morning first. So I was just curious before we jump into our 5 productivity tips, what's your morning like? And like, how do you get your life started basically in the AM?
Absolutely. So first, and I know we'll probably talk about this a million times because I'm such a believer in it, but your morning routine doesn't start in the morning. It starts the night before.
Yeah.
So really knowing that you've got to get your sleep in order to have a good morning routine is so important. So my day starts usually between 4:30 and 5 a.m. And the only way to make that happen is to get enough sleep. Okay. I'm not just waking up at 5 a.m. and going to bed at 1 o'clock sometimes in the morning. That's just not feasible. I will get sleep first before I wake up early every time. But I tend to wake up around 5. The first thing I do is just allow myself to figure out how to be alive. Usually, when you're coming out of sleep, you don't operate at the highest level. So I'm
Hmm.
sort of just like, put my like dressing gown on and wash my face and put my skincare on and get some lemon water and start the coffee
Yes.
maker for when the lemon water is gone. And I do. And then when I'm kind of with it, about half an hour later, I sit down and the very first thing I do is a practice that's in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. It's called The Morning Pages. And it's just 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing so that I can get anything that's on my mind, whether it's good or bad or gross or a grudge from yesterday, like just get it out of my head so that it's not in my way creatively for what I'm going to do the rest of the day. We wake up from bad dreams and maybe yesterday wasn't our best life, and those things just need to be put somewhere. And when you write them down, it's really amazing how you can get past them. So that's the very first thing that I do. After that, I always read a page from the Daily Stoic, which is Ryan Holiday's book about Stoicism.
Yeah.
He takes what all the Stoics taught and makes it make sense to the modern person, I think. And that's a really great way for me to just go into the day with no expectations and happy to be alive, just ready to see what's next. There's
Yeah.
a couple of other things, writing exercises, prioritizing of tasks, but I try to take on the hairiest creative task that I have
Yes.
first thing in the morning, because that way I'm not trying to cram it in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I've gotten a ton of admin things thrown at me. My team needs my attention. I've got calls. I really try to spend time writing and concepting videos in the morning
Yeah.
before I've even looked at my phone or my email.
I love that. And I love that you try to get that creative content out first, because a lot of people, they are focused on social media, checking the email, so many other things before they do the thing that's probably going to be the most valuable, especially if you're going to start a YouTube channel, right? Ultimately, you
Mm-hmm.
need content. And if you're already overwhelmed with all the thoughts before you actually get into content creation, it kind of takes away from that creative process, right? Like maximizing the imagination. I think
Absolutely.
one of the biggest takeaways I can share with the audience is just having a morning routine set, so you don't even have to think about the morning. And I love what you mentioned. And when we talk about productivity tips, we also talk about this about like the night before and how important that is to productivity. But if you have the morning set, you're not making decisions. I even on the days, especially when I'm interviewing people like yourself, usually we do them on Saturday mornings, already have my whole morning not only planned out, but prepared. So I already have the clothes I'm going to be wearing. I know this sounds so elementary, but it's so true. Like even like my workout clothes, I even have my Nalgene bottle filled up with the ice and the lemon and the water and a little
I
bit of
love
yeah, all
that.
of it is ready so that I'm just hitting everything really hard, and it's just bing, bang, boom. Like I'm not making decisions. I think that's it. So first is
That
just,
that is it.
yeah, not making
That
decisions.
is
And so,
it. It's not just the planning. It's the fact that you are abusive to yourself when you
yeah,
put yourself in too many different processes throughout the day. If you're going to have to make a big decision later about what's going to go into your video, how are you going to film it, when are you going to schedule it, that's a whole situation you need to be able to give yourself to. If you also put yourself through the ringer about what am I going to wear today? What's the first morning routine step again? I can't
yeah.
remember. And all those other things, that the reason you plan them is so that it just happens. And a habit isn't a habit until it becomes habitual. And that's how that works.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that those are the two things that's really helped with me. Number one, have a set routine, even if it's simple, right? Like, so you get right to it. And you know what's interesting, over time, that routine becomes more and more productive for you in your day. And then secondly, try to take out all the thinking, right? Like prepare for
Yeah.
the morning. That's
Hmm.
what I do. But you guys, if you're just watching, hit that like button, share this with somebody else that wants a little bit more productivity in their life. And, we've got Amy Landino here. She's going to be talking about Good Morning, Good Life, her new book that she just published. But we're going to be getting into our 5 tips for productivity. So get ready. And the first tip that we have for being more productive is start the day on your terms. Now, this is such a big deal. We've already kind of dived into it, but Amy, what are your thoughts and why is this so important, starting the day on your terms when being more productive in life?
I find this to be so important that I wrote a book about it, right? Like I said, you do not have to be a morning person to start the day on your terms to have a morning routine. The reason I think this is so big when it comes to productivity is you can have productive apps and productive hacks and all these things. But if you haven't been able to have anything be a personal win throughout the day and suddenly you're just supposed to be productive at an arbitrary point of it, it feels a lot less realistic. And it goes back to getting that permission. If you want to give yourself permission to find your stride and being more productive and getting more out of life, start with your first win as soon as possible. And I know I can walk away every single day with, if it's a crazy day and lots of emergencies and fires to put out and I didn't get all the things on my task list done, I had the time just for me before anybody else, probably before anyone else was even awake to send me an email, but definitely before I'm going to check email. I get at least, if it's a really short day, it's 15 minutes. Get 15 minutes for yourself. Pick one thing. But for me, I like to have an hour where I just have my me time. And if nothing else, I got that time with myself. I give the rest of the time to the world, which by the way is very, very hard to get used to when you're an introvert. I'd rather just have the whole day to myself, but I know I'm going to be a better person for everyone else by allowing myself to prepare for that first. And that's starting the day on your terms.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And you mentioned it earlier about basically giving yourself permission to take control of your day, right? In this case, your morning, but your life generally. And part of that is just having that time in the morning. And that what I do too is because I have kids, and of course, like you, I'm creating content, I'm running a business. It's so easy to literally just get bogged down with things coming at every angle, right? In addition to the fact that, you're going to get overwhelmed by just the emails and the social media. So those are all things that people forget about and just kind of like live based off of the whim of that versus completely controlling the morning, starting the day off right. And there's a certain energy that you basically inherit when you do that. So the second tip though that I want to share in terms of being more productive is turn things off. This is super simple, but a lot of people, they don't think about turning things off as a way to be more productive. And what I mean is this: you want to turn off your cell phone, right? Get out of the Twitter tab on your browser. Turn off anything that can distract you. So this kind of goes with what you mentioned, Amy, about starting the day on your terms, right? Don't let people distract you when you're trying to be more productive. By the way, this isn't just isolated to the morning when you have the day on your terms and starting the day off right. This is any part of the day. So whether you're starting the day and you just want to start creating content, or two, maybe you're focused on a really important pitch or you're making phone calls. This could also be with social media. Rather than having like 3 or 4 different social media platforms open, literally just focus on the one that you want to crush and don't let anything distract you. A thing that I do even at night before the morning is I turn my phone on airplane mode, which I know my team and other people that work with me, my wife definitely doesn't want me to do that when I'm away from her, but still, like, I turn that off so that I can just have time to think, to focus on the things that are important to me that I know will move the needle. So ultimately, not only I can get things done, but be more productive. Now, anything you want to add to that, Amy? Because I know that's such a simple tactic, but again, a lot of people would never think of it when they're trying to be more productive.
Yeah, it's funny because also they don't think of it because they've heard it so many times and it sounds really hard. But I think if somebody takes a chance on it and just like literally just leave your phone in another room or turn Wi-Fi off. I remember the first time I heard somebody tell me to turn Wi-Fi off. I was like, I don't need to turn Wi-Fi off. I just want to have the browser open.
Yeah.
It always pops open.
Yes.
But I think you finally learn how valuable this tip is when you do it one time and you actually focus on something and realize how fast you are. And when you see that result, it becomes infectious. Like, do I even need this thing? I don't need this thing. Like, get it out of here. Like, I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. And a quick shout out to some people. We got Pixie Dust Traveler, Apollo, Journey to Wellness. Did you see that trick shots? Thank you so much for being on here and supporting the video influencers community. But on that note, if there's one thing I can share with everybody, the world's not going to end. Okay, nothing crazy is going to happen. In fact, I've been doing this more and more. Where literally I could go for 12 hours of my day without my phone being on. And partly it's because I just hate the fact that it's always buzzing. When I'm with my wife or walking my kids to school, I want to be in the moment. It sounds so frou-frou, but it's true. I don't want like the phone up to my head or like being on an app or responding to emails all day. And trust me, this is, by the way, less bad things going to happen because you're so much more focused on things that are really important when you have that thing turned off. So just give it a try. The world's going to still be there in the morning. There's never been a need. And guess what? Right when you turn it on, you're going to be updated with everything anyways. So I think that, there's a lot to be said about just turning things off, because between the push notifications, the little pop-ups on your browser, people calling you, all the different bells and whistles and sounds, it can be very distracting. And this one little tip can help you. Anything else you want to add before we get into tip number 3?
I'm glad you said push notifications. I feel like that's the really actionable thing somebody could do right now. Just like go through your phone and find out which push notifications you don't need. Maybe that's the beginning of you seeing what life is like when you are not constantly being called attention to your phone. I think that's the one thing I've done. I've turned off most notifications during certain seasons of life. I don't even get text message pings on my phone. Drives my husband crazy. I don't care, because currently at that moment is not going to help me. And if it's an emergency, you know how to find me. Everyone knows how to find me. If you need to find me and it's really an emergency, there's nothing that having a text message come to my phone is going to change about that emergency.
Absolutely. And I'll tell everybody else, there's so many other more important things in your life than just knowing what's the latest Twitter trending stuff. Okay. I actually secretly go to my wife's phone, and she's going to totally kill me that I'm saying this. And I'm like, if I see like notifications on phone that I know that she doesn't want, I just go ahead and kind of turn off some of those, because she doesn't. See, this is the thing. She doesn't even know how to turn off some of those things. So it's just crazy, because we don't even know. Like, sometimes I go into my computer and I'm like, why is this popping up? I never even said it that way. It's so easy for the platforms and apps to just like turn things on without even your permission. So just keep that in mind, you guys. You might be distracted, and not even because you wanted to be distracted. It's just like they're trying to push things in front of you. So we're going to move into tip number 3, which is calendar blocking. Now, everybody knows it's important to schedule your time, look at your calendar, but calendar blocking is very specific, and Amy's going to share with us why that's so important for productivity. Amy, your thoughts here.
Calendar blocking is so huge. It kind of sounds like it's like this aggressive sports move that you would do if anyone's like coming for your calendar, and you just like, which it could be that, just like less aggressive, right? Calendar blocking is essentially the idea around making time, blocks of time to do the things that you need to do. So you're probably used to using your calendar for most things, going to appointments, showing up for any real commitment that you need to do, picking the kids up on the days that it's your job to pick the kids up. There's tons of things that we put on the calendar, but we also, next to this calendar, have a to-do list that seems to go on for miles and miles. And that's something that never can end. But if you look at your calendar, you realize this is the calculator for your life. This is literally all the time that you have. So when you start to fill it with the things you have to do, need to do, want to do, you realize, oh, wow, time is actually very precious, especially if I need to sleep 7 to 8 hours and I have a job to go to. That takes a lot of it right out of there. And you really start to understand, okay, what's left? When am I going to make time for the things that matter to me? And also, it turns out I could potentially have a couple hours to myself in the morning if I moved some things around, or if I went to bed an hour earlier. There's definitely ways you start to reverse engineer the success of your life when you look at your calendar as, again, the calculator of time that you have and where it's being placed and where you could be placing it. And blocking time for the things that you want to do is a really big first step.
Yeah. And the other benefit to having calendar blocking part of your life, not only is it good for you to know when you're going to commit to do something specific, right? Whether it's creating content or planning some kind of a project or working on your business, but everybody else knows that's a time you block, and they would be less likely to distract you. Is that correct, Amy? Would you say that's also true? Not just for like maybe like your viewers, a community, but even people close to you, you know, significant other, family members, and friends.
It's not an instantaneous fix for the rest of
Yeah.
the world. But I think if you remember that everything, literally the answer to everything comes down to communication, and you let the people in your life know that this is just how you want to start trying things. You want to test it out for yourself. My husband is a night owl and I'm a morning person. And so that felt really difficult when we first started seeing each other a lot more seriously. It was like, shouldn't we be doing exactly the same thing all the time? And to me, I was like, no, I think we should do what feels right to each individually. The upside to my husband and I is that we work together. And so we see each other a lot, really a lot, like on a regular basis. And so that's a luxury that we have. And we don't feel as strapped for time together. We still have to be very intentional about it, but it is there. And so I'm able to talk to him and say, hey, I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to have some quiet time to myself. What time do you want to wake up? Let's come together, have a cup of coffee at that point, talk about life, talk about business if we want, and then move into our day together. And then there's a specific amount of time in the evening. I have like enough patience for like 1 hour of television in the evening these days. And so we'll do that. And then he continues on with whatever he wants to do, and I get ready for bed. I think it comes down to that communication. And when you do communicate it well and you follow through on what you want to do, people do gain that respect for you. But the big first step is being willing to say, I've blocked this time on my calendar. I just can't give it to you.
Yeah, I agree on it does take time, but the point is get it started now, and in time, people are going to take it very seriously. You know, one of the reasons some people don't take it seriously or maybe don't respect the calendar blocking is because maybe you've tried to do it and you didn't actually follow through, right? I know when we started this show here on Video Influencers that it was a big deal that I dedicated Saturday mornings to doing this show because usually that's when you kind of sleep in. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I'm getting my workout on. This is why I have everything all prepared. And then I'm getting ready for the broadcast. I'm meeting with the team. I'm looking over my notes. And then we go live at 10 a.m. So I've done this every single Saturday. I'd say like for at least a year now. And once you do it long enough, then people are like, okay, this is a serious thing. And it's magical. I will tell you, Amy, that this calendar blocking has been so beneficial to me because everybody in my life, including my audience, they know Saturday mornings is when we crush the VI show. By the way, thank you for being on the VI show. And it's because, it's not Saturday, obviously, but it's because of this calendar blocking that I believe this show has had the momentum it has, and people know. And also like the benefit for you guys that have a channel, when you commit to a time like that, people will be waiting. Hit that like button if you appreciate the VI show and you know that we go live at a certain time because of the consistency. Anything else you want to add before we move on to tip number 4?
Yeah, I just want people to remember that the public appointments make it so easy to condition, but remember that calendar blocking is really special when you just schedule time with yourself. And as a creator starting out, if A, no one's watching your show yet, or B, you just are writing it and you're just spending time being creative, that appointment is just as important as every other appointment you're going to have with anyone else, the one you have with yourself. So just remember to leverage blocking for everything.
Boom. You guys heard it from Amy Landino. If you guys are not familiar with her, go check her channel out. We have the link down below. Hit that like button. Again, leave your questions. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end. If you're watching the replay, you can watch those if you become a member of the Video Influencers Club. You just hit the join button, and you've got behind the scenes. You get some exclusive live broadcasts, as well as you get the Q&A replays. So the 4th tip for being more productive is reverse engineer bedtime. Now, a lot of people, when they think about being productive, they're focused on the morning, you know, what the routine is there in the AM period, and then obviously what you actually do. But this is a great perspective from Amy about doing something before you even go to bed. So, Amy, let us know, what does reverse engineering bedtime actually mean, and why is it so important for being productive?
Well, it was kind of like we were talking about earlier. If you're going to wake up earlier than usual, you need to still get the ample amount of sleep for you to function. I mean, you skimp on sleep, that's not going to work out for very long. This is quite literally one of the things you need to be a living, breathing, thriving human being. So reverse engineering your bedtime is essentially looking at what time do you need to wake up? Like, when did you want to start that morning routine, or when did you want to start to change the way that you start your day? Then you got to figure out how much you need to sleep and add that in there, and then find out what time should you be asleep. Well, that's great. Let's say you need to be asleep by 10 o'clock. Well, you're not going to get in bed and fall asleep right away. So you kind of need to think about what's that little grace period of time that you could plan to get to bed so that you could potentially fall asleep on time. And that's usually your like 9:30 in this situation, where you're tucked in, reading a book, not looking at your phone, not watching television, not doing anything to start any big conversations, just letting yourself dwindle to sleep, because that's the only way that this productive morning is even going to start, or having an optimistic look at the rest of your day the next day. Having enough sleep is super important. I know a lot of people deal with sleep issues, and I think insomnia is a real problem. Yeah. But for the majority of those of us who are not sleeping well, it is because we can't get our brain to stop. Your brain won't stop if you're looking at a device and scrolling incessantly. All the noises, all of the sounds, all of the envy that could possibly come from a social network will stop you from falling asleep, because you'll have so many ideas and issues with what you're seeing. But if you're not doing that, you up the chances of just allowing yourself to be a human that falls asleep. And the other thing I recommend is, if it's just you, if you're just like, oh, I can't stop thinking, oh, there's so many things, I always like to take a notepad with me to bed. I want paper and pencil, and I want to write down anything that's on my mind. Just write until I'm falling asleep, because I can't keep writing anymore, all these things that are bugging me. And if you just do something to actually allow your brain to shut down, it actually could work out, and you might get that sleep.
Can you hear me? Sorry about that. Yeah, I completely agree. And I also believe in this too, reverse engineering bedtime. But the real question is this: do you do the same thing that I do, Amy, which is negotiate with yourself how much sleep you actually need, right? Like when you're doing the reverse engineering, like you said, if you have to wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. and maybe it's like 6 or 7 at night the night before, and you're like, I only need 4 or 5 hours tonight, but there's another number. So first off, do you ever do that? And secondly, what is the amount of hours that you recommend, or at least that you need to sleep well? Because for me, it's usually, I would say like 6 to 7 hours at least. But then, there's those nights. And as I get older, I actually need more sleep, funny enough. I try to tell myself, I can do 3 hours, but it never works out. That's why this is so important, this whole conversation on reverse engineering bedtime.
And it's funny because I think the 3-hour nights, they're going to happen, right? Like there's going to be some crazy thing that happens in your life where you're so successful, or you've got so many things going on that you're up late and you got to wake up early the next day. The point is that should not be your everyday. I negotiate with myself all the time. And then the negotiation comes to a screeching halt when I look at my calendar blocking, because on Sundays, I do my weekly planning, I do my weekly reflection, and I've already looked at what are the commitments that I've made? When do they start? Are they to myself or to anybody else? Doesn't matter. I'm going to usually wake up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. So with that being the case, I've already got on my calendar, because I calendar block everything, what time I need to be asleep. And therefore the hour beforehand that says, go to bed or get ready for bed. And that time is like, okay, I need to start like getting my dog settled to go to sleep, and last snacks for you, last pee break for you. I'm going to go wash my face. I start to go through the motions, and I can't negotiate with myself when I've already done the math in advance that I need that sleep. For me, over a lot of years of testing it out, 6 is too short and 8 is too long. So I shoot for 7 to 7.5, but it's usually 7 because I'm like, ooh, I could get that extra half hour.
Yeah, and I love seeing all the different numbers pop up. Sean Cannell from Think Media, co-founder of Video Influencers, he says 8, definitely. I'm always surprised that Sean is sleeping 8 hours, because he's one of the hardest working people I know, and he still gets 8 hours. And so you guys share with us, how many hours does it take for you? We're about to get into tip number 5, which I believe is one of the best tips I've ever heard. It's unique, but it makes so much sense. But before that, if you guys are new to this channel, this is Video Influencers. My name is Benji Travis. Make sure you subscribe for more interviews just like this. We have a VI show every single Saturday morning. Hit that like button. Make sure you go visit Amy Landino's channel down below and get a copy of her book, Good Morning, Good Life. We're about to jump into the 5th tip, but I'm telling you, it is definitely a solid read. It's going to help you get started. And we're going to ask Amy a little bit more about it. But tip number 5 is there has to be something you're excited about. This seems so obvious, but really no one thinks about this when it comes to productivity. Amy, let us know, why is this so important and why is this going to help people be more productive?
Because we always forget that we're supposed to be having some fun. Like everything sounds so like work and like strategic and productive. And it's like, great. Do you actually want to get more productive about a career that you're not super excited about for a good reason? Or are you starting that side hustle because it's actually something that you could see yourself doing down the line and loving your job every day? Whatever the case may be, if it's a channel, if it's a business, if it's crocheting, I don't care. What are you excited about? Because calendar blocking the mundane crap that you have to do is not going to bring you joy. But if there's something to look forward to, you do your have tos and then you get your want tos, but then you never get your want tos if you forget what you want. We forget what we want because we are so busy paying attention to what everyone else in the world is doing. It's why we watch too much TV, we scroll too much social media, because we think we're getting ideas and we're gleaning information. And that very well could be true. But if you never make time to do the things you're excited about, even if you don't even know how to do them yet, you're not actually going to be getting more productive in the life that you want. You're getting more productive maybe, but less driven by the life you kind of already fell into. And to me, that's just not what I'm doing. I'm always working toward how do I get excited, or where have I lost the excitement in my day, or what can be a more shining moment for me that I have to look forward to. It doesn't matter if you start a YouTube channel and it becomes hugely successful. A job still tends to be a job sometimes. It's a lot of work for Benji to get up at 5 a.m. on Saturday mornings to do this show. It looks amazing, but it's a lot of work. Yeah. And so if you're willing to put in that work, it means you really love what you're doing. And that's the thing you're excited about. But you have to block your way there because no one's handing you the success until it absolutely gets earned. And even then, you're grabbing it. Nobody's handing it to you.
Yeah, it really is so true. And I love this tip. I think it is the most important one of the 5 that you're sharing today. But you know, I say a similar thing to people when I'm asking them about, you know, when they're asking me, like, what kind of channel should I create? My question always is, what do you have the most fun doing in life? What is the thing that really gets you excited? So similar to, you know, like how to be more productive, I'm just like, what do you care about the most that you can do basically for free? Now, of course, if you're watching this, you're trying to build a profitable business. But you know what? The way you get started on YouTube or in social media generally is you got to put up content. And you got to put it up for free, usually for a while. And the way you do that is you do something that excites you, that you have fun doing. So that's why I think this is so important. You're correct. It's not something that I thought I would be doing regularly, but because I have so much fun interviewing people like yourself, Amy, and other influencers, you know, Shauna and I sometimes go live together. I love helping other people and sharing what I've learned, my experiences, giving value to help you crush it on YouTube, to, you know, build an influence, income, impact with online videos. And because of that excitement, it's easier for me. So the question for you watching right now, ask yourself, what is it that you have the most fun doing? Because that'll probably influence what is going to be the most successful YouTube channel. But you have to do something that you're excited to do, because if you are doing that thing that is getting you energized, you're going to just be naturally more productive without the other tips, right? Without having to have all these hacks or these different strategies. You're naturally going to figure it out because you love it so much. And we're about to jump into Q&A and kind of like talk about your book, Amy. Any last thoughts on these 5 tips or anything you want to add to that last one?
I think they're all really important for their own reasons, and you just got to pick one and go in on it and just start to see the results, because it's really easy to get bogged down by too many things. Just try something to see what happens if you make a simple change in your life, because it's very small steps that are going to add up to a really big change.
Absolutely. So, because you're on the show and you've got this amazing book, Good Morning, Good Life, I want to give you a chance to share about it. I've watched a lot of your videos, and I know people can get absolutely free content on your channel, but tell us why people should buy the book, what they're going to get out of it, and really what it's about.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that, again, you do not need to be a morning person. The biggest gap that I saw in this world of morning routine books was that it was like, here's how you do it. To me, I think it's about what you make of it, what's right for you. So there's 5 simple habits that it walks you through in order to figure out what that looks like for you. And I think you just need to fill 3 buckets every morning. And if you can do that, you could do it in as little as 15 minutes, maybe even 5, depending on what you decide that you have in your life or at that moment. I like to have an hour. But I think when you start with movement, mindfulness, and mastery, you have a beautiful start to your day, one that you completely owned for you, and you can step into whatever challenge comes your way. Move your body, stretch, do a workout, whatever the case that's for you. I don't like to work out first thing in the morning, but I'll do a little stretches, do a little massage of the muscles on my face with some skincare, move my body just to feel out the day. Mindfulness, you might meditate. I like to do stream of consciousness writing in a notebook. Just have a moment where you haven't looked at your phone yet. You haven't had all of these things coming into your brain yet, and you just recognize how you feel and what you think and what your ideas are. That's true mindfulness, in my opinion. And mastery, you trying to build that channel? When are you going to make time for it? Do something that's going to move it forward. Do something to research the industry. Do something to write that next project. Get excited about it. Do something for your mastery so that it can move you forward. Those are the 3 buckets that I talk about in the book that make a really good shine to your morning. And overall, you get to decide what that looks like. I'm not going to tell you what it looks like for you. And I think that's why somebody might like to pick up the book.
For sure. And you guys, you should definitely pick up the book. Everything Amy puts out is gold. And I can tell you, not only from having you on this show and multiple interviews from both Sean and myself, as well as watching YouTube videos and seeing you speak on stage, people love your content. They're getting great value. I'm sure they would get the same value, if not more, because there's just more context there in the book. So go pick it up. Good morning, good life. We're about to get into the Q&A. We're just going to do a couple questions here so we can let Amy go. If you're watching the replay, join the members club so you can get that. And if you guys are watching this right now, you're going to get to ask your questions. But if you're watching the replay, got to join to see those Q&A. So if you guys want to see our last interview with Amy Landino, click or tap the screen right here about vlogging. If you want to see her content, visit her channel, click or tap the screen right here. As always, we're helping build your influence, income, impact with online videos.